Good evening, everyone. Myself, Syamal Bora, UGC NET JRF qualified, PhD scholar, Department of Geography. In this class, we are going to discuss about population composition, why a simple number is not enough, how crowded a country is has little to do with its level of economic development. Okay, in Japan, it is densely populated but highly developed economy. On the other hand, Bangladesh also densely populated area or country, but it's still developing economy. Okay, same way populated, that means both are densely populated, but their developmental status are different. Okay, so what truly defines a population's character and potentiality? Okay, population composition refers to the structure of a population, analyzing its statistical characteristics to understanding its qualities beyond sheer size. It helps us know how the people are, their age, sex, location, education, and occupation. Okay, age and sex structure. The balance of young, working age, and elderly people. Linguistic and religious fabric, that means cultural identity of a nation. Urban and rural residents, that means where people live and its impact on their livelihoods. Literacy rate, the level of education and its link to development. Occupational structure, how people contribute to the economy, that means their economical activities. Now, age and sex. Age structure, the story of a generations. Age structure is a distribution of people across three key groups: young population, working population, and elderly population. Young population include the population which are less than 15 years. Okay, it indicates a high proportion means high proportion of young population indicates a high birth rate. Working population includes the age population age between 15 to 64 years, the economically active group that drives the development of a country, and elderly population, that means the aged population that is more than 65 years. A large elderly population requires investment in healthcare and social support. Okay, similarly, sex composition. The sex ratio is the number of females per 1,000 males according to the Indian scenario. It's a critical indicator of the status of women. Okay, global sex ratios indicates by males per 100 females, and in Indian sex ratio indicates by females per 1,000 males. Okay, world average of sex ratio is 102. That means 102 males per 100 females. Okay, Latvia is 85 female surplus, and Qatar 311 male surplus. Okay, these ratios are more than numbers. They reflect societal values, economic migration patterns, and gender equality. For example, a low ratio for women can indicate gender inequality and practices like female feticide. Now, the age-sex pyramid is a graph that illustrates the distribution of a population by age group and its group and sex. Its shape reveals the story of a country's growth. Okay, expanding population, that means high birth rate and large young population, typical of less developed nations. For example, Nigeria and Bangladesh. Constant population, that means birth and death rates are nearly equal, leading to slower, stable growth. For example, Australia. Declining population, that means low birth and death rates, population growth is often zero or negative. For example, Japan. Okay, these are three basics population pyramid, that means age-sex pyramid on the basis of their population and group and sex. Population, group, and sex. Now, the rural-urban divide. The division between rural primary activities and urban non-primary activities, populations is a key factor shaping a nation's economy and social structure. In India, highest rural population found in Himachal Pradesh with 89.97%. Lowest rural population found in Delhi metropolitan, that is 2.50%. Okay, 68.84% of India's population lived in rural villages according to 2011 census. Okay, this distribution dictates national priorities for infrastructure, education, and healthcare, and drives internal migration patterns. Gender dynamics in urban migration. Migration patterns between rural and urban areas often differ significantly by gender, revealing underlying economic rules and social norms. In Western countries, females often outnumbered males in urban areas. This is driven by an influx of women from the rural areas seeking diverse job opportunities, as farming is often male-dominated Western countries. On the other hand, Asian countries, for example India and Nepal, males tend to outnumber females in urban areas. Male-dominated migration is common, while factors like housing cost and lack of security can discourage women for living in rural areas where they actively participated in agricultural activities. In the context of India, the literacy rate is the percentage of the population above 7 years of age who can read, write, and perform mathematical calculations with understanding. Okay, it is crucial for reflects the standard of living, reveals the availability of educational facilities and government policies, and indicating the social status of women. A high literacy rate is foundational for a skilled workforce, economic productivity, and social mobility. It is a direct measure of a country's investment in its human capital. Okay, now the occupational structure. The distribution of the working population, that is ages between 15 to 59, across different economic activities indicates a nation's level of development. Primary activities, also known as extraction activities. Farming, forestry, fishing, mining, hunting, etc. are examples of primary activities, and a high proportion in less developed economies. Secondary activities, manufacturing, industrial production, and construction are secondary activities. Quaternary activities, for example, knowledge, research, IT, idea development, high proportion in highly developed economies. And tertiary activities, services, trade, transport, and communication, finance. Okay, primary activities, secondary activities, tertiary activities, and finally quaternary activities. Okay, these are some basic divisions of economic activities on the basis of their economic activities on the basis of their work participation. 39.8% of the population are classified as workers, both men and marginal, leaving a vast majority of on an average 60% as non-workers. Okay, main worker means works at least 183 days per year, and marginal worker means works less than 183 days per year. Okay, occupational categories of the working population. 54.6% of the Indian population are engaged in agricultural labors. 3.8% household labors, cultivators 24.6%, and other workers 41.6%. Okay, these all data are from according to 2011 census in Indian workforce. Now, language and religions in India. Linguistic composition. India has 22 scheduled languages and was home to 179 languages and 554 dialects according to the early service. 4 major language families: Indo-Aryan, 73%, Dravidian, also known as Dravida, 20%, Ostic, Nisada, comprises 1.8%, Sino-Tibetan, also known as Kirata, comprises 0.8%. Religious composition according to 2011 census in India. Majority comprises of Hindu, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, and other that is not stated. Okay, Hindu comprises 17.8%, Muslim comprises 14.2%, Christian comprises 2.3%, Sikhs 1.7%, and other 2%. Understanding population composition is crucial for effective planning and resource allocation. Okay, for example, economic planning, identifying workforce needs and developing policies that support economic growth. Public health, planning targeted vaccination programs for children or specialized healthcare for the elderly. Infrastructure development, planning for roads, bridges, and housing based on population density and growth. Business strategy, identifying target markets and developing effective marketing campaigns. Social policy, addressing the needs of vulnerable groups like the poor and disabled. These are some importance of understanding the population composition of a country. Population composition is not just a collection of statistics, it is a dynamic blueprint that reveals a nation's history, its present capabilities, and its future path. By learning to read this blueprint, we move beyond a simple headcount to a profound understanding of a society's character, challenges, and potentialities. Understanding the intricate composition of a population is fundamental to shaping a more equitable and prosperous future. The age of the young, the balance of genders, the skills of the workforce, and the places people call home are the core elements that will define the next chapter of the human story. That's all for today. If you have any doubt, inquiry, just let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Thank you.